You're listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt, where we talk about hunting, shooting, fishing, camping, and everything else that the great outdoors has to offer. Let's get into it.
It's been a busy couple of weeks, but, the right sort of so much fun. And then the wind down afterwards, because there's so many people and so many cool stories trying to work out who, where, when, how do I schedule everything? It is always a bit of a challenge, but been looking forward to this one because we're semi-local, only probably about, I reckon, 15 minutes apart, less the way the crow flies. So Chris from On the Hunt Australia. Mate, chuck out your social media so people know straight away.
Will do. Chris from On the Hunt Australia, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, perfect. So I usually do it at the end of episodes and sort of probably need to do it a bit better, getting people at the start so more people hear where to go. Usually we have pretty good retention to the end, but it's worth just noting for that. So it's been just, a crazy couple of months after what happened at Bondi and just in general. And, one thing I always am very, taken back by the firearms community is when someone puts up something about poaching and the mixed comments. And I, for one, am sick of seeing people justify poachers' actions. I'm sick and tired of seeing the comments like, oh, they're only a feral pest. You're doing the farmer a favour. And I sort of sit there and go, it's such an uneducated viewpoint, because I'm sure all of those people would not be impressed if someone just walked into their living room when they weren't home, or when they were home, they'd be probably super pissed off. But because it's somehow on a property that's larger than your house, your average house, that it's somehow deemed acceptable. And I try my best on this podcast to condemn it. And I've said, and I'll continue to say, if I find out someone that I'm friends with or associated with is caught poaching, done poaching, I'm out, mate. I don't care who you are. You could be my best friend for 10 years and I'll flick you. And I think that's a stand I want to take, and I'm hoping more and more people do it, because I don't see how poaching would continue if people are finding out that's what the animals were taken, and they've got to be bragging about them, because I just don't understand why you would do it otherwise. Yeah. It's quite an annoying thing, but you've had some run-ins in the past?
I've had a good one, actually. Usually when I go hunting, I take my wife and my two kids. My two kids, 7 and 3. So they're only young. They're usually sleeping in the back seat because we go out at night and I run all thermal gear and whatnot. So we're completely blacked out. So you can't see us at all. But yeah, one day we went out. Like I said, everything was blacked out. I'm looking through my thermal and my young bloke's on the iPad looking exactly what I can see because it runs through the Wi-Fi and whatnot. And we can see a car sort of coming towards us in the distance. So I stopped my rifle and made sure everything was safe and just kept an eye on him. And he's come sort of around the fence where there's probably, I don't know, maybe 5 to 6 metre gap. And then it's like a drop off into a creek. And he's come up. And I told the missus, I said, start the car to make sure he knows we're here, because nobody else knows we're here besides the landowner. And anyway, the missus started the car, lights on and everything, and he's beelined it straight for us. So we've sort of rolled up to him as well, and there was 3 blokes, all with rifles, all in hand. And I said, mate, do you know where you are? And he said, I was going to ask you the same thing. I said, I'm on a property where I've got permission to hunt. I know the owner personally. What are you doing on here? And he said, we thought we were poachers. I said, mate, you've actually gone around the fence, come onto the property when you knew that we were hunting, because you could obviously hear it, and you've got 3 rifles with 3 people in your car. And he sort of backtracked a little bit, and he's like, oh, yeah, I know the owner too, and I'm just making sure, his land is all good and there's no poachers and things like that. But it's sort of, it got to me a little bit, because I've got 3 kids, and if they're hunting whatever they're hunting, pigs, deer, whatever it is, all it takes is one stray bullet to sort of whiz past you or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know you were saying before you don't want anyone on your property that you don't know and things like that. It's not just letting them on. It's a big safety thing more than anything. Some of the farmers could have cattle that are worth thousands of dollars. All you got to do is turn that rifle chasing a pig and accidentally let one off when you're supposed to be aiming for the pig, hitting a cow. Do you know what I mean? That's 4,000, 5,000, whatever it is, gone down the drain for that farmer. So, but my main priority is my family and my kids. And, I had a go at this bloke and I sort of brushed him off and said, mate, you better leave pretty quickly. And I found out that he was from the neighbouring property. So he's using his property plus our one to sort of hunt. And I've noticed over the few years that I've been going there that there's random kangaroos like that are dead and things like that are, decaying and whatnot. And I always think, how did a kangaroo just die there? Was it those guys coming on and, poaching kangaroos or pigs or things like that? So it's just a bit suspect, that's all.
I think you made a couple of good points there, and I agree, is that safety, number one, especially poaching, is generally, and I'll say generally because, there's exceptions to every rule, but generally done of a night because there's less chance of getting caught because people are less likely to be there. And it's dark. As you just said, as soon as you turn the lights on, he came straight for you because you can clearly see a long way in the dark. The other thing you mentioned was talking about that you could shoot, swing for a pig and hit a cow. I think it goes even further to that because, if you see a lot of properties, there's a lot of cleared land, that bullet hasn't got a backdrop.
That's right.
It can travel and it can just keep going. And everyone's sort of seen stories, and I know people sort of, say, oh, this person's not credible and it wouldn't happen or this wouldn't happen. And, I remember reading one, and yes, the person was not a fan of hunters, but I'll take them at their word where they're saying that bullets have hit the car at such a slow sort of thing that it hasn't penetrated the glass and got stuck in there. Now, that is from obviously shooting a long distance away. Who knows what? You talk about over ridge lines. There's so many safety issues. It always is one of the things in my mind when you're going out of a night, especially if someone's spotlighting. And I've had instances where I've been down the state forest and in the neighbouring property, there's people spotlighting and it's just like, oh, let's not stick around here because it just takes a stray bullet. It takes a miss, and that happens. The gun might not be sighted in properly. There's a million reasons that can happen that it's not worth it from that perspective. But even more from the poaching standpoint is that they probably don't know what is where. I make it a habit if wherever we go, I really try and understand the lay of the land, any landmarks not to, and I've been lucky enough, a couple of mates are taking me out. So when we get there, I'm always, what's that way, picking. So you're not ever going to be pulling a trigger and an accident happens because once that bullet's gone, it ain't coming back. And, I get, as a dad now, you think about it a little bit different. Like I love hunting. I want my kids to be involved, but I've openly said I will not take them to a state forest.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's just not that anything has happened in the past, but I also don't want to be an exception to what's gone on so far. And, the guilt you would feel for one of those issues, I'd much rather try and get access to private and take them there. But then again, you're also saying that, your experience, and you see it a lot and hear it a lot now, of how much is going on out there from a poaching standpoint. That doesn't necessarily mean you're safe on a private property anymore, which is such a shame.
No, that's right.
And there's no reason for it when we've got such an amount of public land. We've now even opened, it's got better from a public land point of view for the sake that you've got nights for pig doggers. You can then book it of a day for rifle hunting or bow hunting. It doesn't matter which way you do it. But like, it's sort of that, hold on, you've got more access. You've got such a plethora of state forests. I have never understood the whole poaching thing. I just can't get my head around it because they've either been doing it for so long and never got caught, they just don't care. Or like it's one, surely it's instant loss of license. That's a lot of gear. It's a lot of expense. It's a passion, supposedly. Like I can't even imagine doing the wrong thing to lose my hobby or something I love to do. Like, it's one that really baffles me a lot.
Yeah. Well, now that ever since like Bondi and whatnot's happened, these new laws that have come in, doing something stupid like that is just making us look worse. The legal firearm owners, we should be all banding together to make us, look better and educate other people that have no idea what we do and whatnot. You know what I mean? Instead of doing stupid things like that. But it's even keeping your guns out of a safe, in the closet, up high. Like, abide by the law. Do the right thing, then we won't look as dumb as we sort of do, or how the government is portraying us. So,
well, I think a lot of times people are very self-centered and they don't think about others. So, like for someone, okay, I'll go out and poach because I want to get a deer that I think they somehow can justify it in their own mind that they're not doing a bad thing, even though it's illegal. And the repercussions for the hunting community or firearm owner community is going to be, we saw what happened with Bondi, and although that is a separate thing because they were terrorists, let's be real. But like when you think about that, you've got to sort of go, hey, if you're doing the wrong thing, it's not just your license, it's generations of people that are losing and tradition and culture and so much more than just you breaking the law. It's got to be, and I think we need to, as hunters, do better at calling it out. And, it's frustrating for me when you look at how quickly we sort of will just forget someone did something or they'll be happy. And, we've got some people that are very well known and followed, by large amounts of people who have been caught poaching, who have had pleaded guilty to it, and you sort of sit there and go, what is it about our community that we just go, oh, that's okay, no big deal. That person broke the law, made us all look like dickheads, could have cost us whatever it might be, and we're just going to forget about it. We're just going to, he shoots good stuff, so we're going to watch. It really fascinates me where we're at and how that changes. I don't know. I don't know how that changes unless people that are friends with these people call them out and start cutting ties. Because I think if you're poaching, you sort of, yes, you're breaking the law and all that. That obviously is not the concern. They don't care about that, right? So that's why they're doing it. If they were worried about laws, they wouldn't poach. Pretty simple. Yeah. But is it? Who do they brag to? Who do they talk to? Because, one of the best things about what we do is, I love what I do, getting to chat to people and hear how they went and why they hunt and how they hunt and all those things, because that's part of what we do is share those stories and experiences. If no one's engaging with that, I reckon poaching would die out pretty quickly. There's always going to be people doing the wrong thing, but I don't think there would be as many as we see today. And there's constant rumors that people who are in the influencer space are not doing everything above board, which is, not great. And I hope that's not true. But, there's some very persistent rumors and things that keep coming around, which is such a shame to hear.
I think it's also a lot harder to get onto private land as well, because a lot of farmers or landowners, can't trust a lot of people. And it's very hard to say, yeah, no worries, come on my land and shoot. Like, I wouldn't let a guy come onto my land with a rifle. It doesn't matter sort of who you are, unless you're a really close mate, then I'm coming with you. That's probably another reason as well, because, they just don't have the opportunity or the network to sort of get onto somewhere and actually hunt. So they're thinking, we'll jump the fence or we'll send a drone up in the air, scout the area out, see if it is a holiday house or if it's a permanent resident or something like that. Because we have seen drones flying in the area that we do hunt, and they're not far from roads either. So they sort of come across, hover around a little bit, and then take off again. So we've seen a few of those. It could be some kid, but likely not at 11 o'clock at night. So who knows?
Well, I think I don't know. The excuse that you've got nowhere to hunt, it doesn't fly with us because I don't like. I haven't got private. I have not once had an inkling to go and do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I'd rather not shoot anything that, like, I don't know. I don't think it's a trophy. I don't think it's anything because you're doing something that you shouldn't be there. Like, it's a funny one because obviously there's an issue with it. And I know people always get upset when we talk about stuff like this on the podcast that you're portraying us in a bad light. And I was like, well, if people didn't do it, I wouldn't be portraying anything. You know, It's funny that I'm calling out poaching and you're upset because I'm calling it out instead of being on board and trying to sweep illegal activity under the rug. I was like, I don't understand that. But hey, look, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Go for it. Do what you got to do. But
right.
So, mate, let's talk about you. You like to shoot overnight, thermal. What are you running? Because, you know, that is one thing. I just love the tech and it's getting better and better. I'm, you know, trying to upgrade a few things at the moment. So I'm always interested to see what people are running and how they're doing it. What do you got?
I used to shoot during the day just with the normal day scope and whatnot. Got it into the sort of night thermal stuff just by watching YouTube videos like everyone starts, I suppose. Bit the bullet on a cheaper version, Thermtech Aries 335. Loved it. I really liked it. Recently just ran into a problem with it. Every time I shot, the focus ring must be loose or something, the tech was saying, and it'll lose focus. So I couldn't do follow-up shots or things like that. So exchanged, and they didn't have that model anymore. So they've sent me out a brand new 660, 60mm lens, everything like that. I still haven't shot it yet. I only got it on Friday. So I'm keen to see how that goes. But Thermtech do some pretty cool stuff. You've got other brands like Pulsar and things like that. But like I said, I've got kids and a family and a mortgage and whatnot. I don't have $10,000 to spend on a thermal. So, but even your cheaper price point ones do the job. You know, you've got your iPad set up, so everything's on a bigger screen, and I just run everything off a carbon fiber tripod. And sometimes I just sit and wait for a bit, enjoy the farmland and the open areas and the breeze and whatnot. And other times we just keep moving along, making sure the wind's in our face. So. But once you go thermal, you sort of don't go back.
Oh, I've got the Hick Micro Griffin and absolutely love it. Like, it's handheld monocular. The only downside, and it's not against Hick Micro, it is all of them. If you've got a monocular, that difference between your eye that you're looking through with that sort of night blindness because of that vision, I guess that light, and then the other side's dark, that throws me a bit. I tend to get headaches if I've done it a fair bit. So I'm really interested in looking at those binos that they just take away that issue. They're expensive. Like, as I said, who's got 10 grand? I don't but I was hoping to win the bloody first Fox Off giveaways one, but I was not lucky. Unfortunately, I was hoping I'd have a bit of luck there, but I am very unlucky. So I don't think that'll ever happen. Things like that, I really think are great when you've got those sort of promotions and that where people can win stuff because, as you said, like it might just get some lucky punter out there that couldn't afford some really good gear to get out there. I sort of sit there and look at that and go, that is probably the closest I'll come to trying to spend that sort of money, I think, on something because it's the, I guess, the dad conundrum, isn't it? I sort of sit there and whilst it is my hobby and passion, 10 grand's a lot of cash to do that when I don't get out that often of a night because I don't have the properties. That's a lot of money that could go towards my kids on something that they enjoy and they use regularly. And it's sort of like, it's that one's a hard pill to swallow, but they're just getting so good. But I think that's where I've tried to balance it a little bit and got the Hick Micro Alpex. I got the 4K, but I tell you what, the new Pro looks unreal and light. I'm sort of tossing up whether I move on the Alpex 4K and get the new Pro, and just for that weight It's sleeker. I don't know. It's such a tricky one. Tell you what, these new laws are really being quite painful because I think everyone's holding back to see what's going to happen, how it gets implemented, not buy things, which means you can't sell things, which there's, there's a couple of rifles I want to get and I'm looking at, but I'm sort of sitting there going, do I buy them? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Just it's a really tricky time, and I know the gun shops are feeling it because everyone I think has that a lot more hesitancy and they're not wanting to bite the bullet, pun intended, to get new gear that they might then just be throwing away money. Who knows what it looks like in the end, and then that becomes a real problem. Or the other thing is that, unfortunately, if it does go through, and I'm still a little skeptical because of the amount it's going to cost, and with the election coming in, I'm a little skeptical this will happen. And as I've said previously, the longer this drags on, the better for us, because as long as there's not another incident, it sort of seems like a significant waste of money. I mean, their own hearing came out the other day where they said, hey, there's nothing wrong with the sort of firearms laws. This was, not really. This was a stuff up, but we're still going to go ahead and buy them back. And it's like, that's so contradictory. And I think the Australian public's wise enough to go, what an absolute disgrace and a waste of money. So I've still got some glimmers of hope that it may not happen. But then if it does, I sort of then also, I don't want to see people having their firearms destroyed. So I know I'll probably try and do my best to not stockpile is probably not the right word, but to make sure I've got my limit on rather than someone hand it back to be destroyed. That would just be an absolute tragedy,
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's from my perspective anyway. I'd rather see people sell them to other people, keep them in the community, than have them destroyed.
Yeah.
But probably don't want to say that too loud because then it won't be as costly as it's projected to be. And we sort of want that figure thrown around so people don't want it to go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just before Bondi happened and these new laws and whatnot came in, I bought my missus Taipan X223, only just because it's simple to use. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like a pump action, bring it back, push it forward. It's her. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's light, nimble, move it around pretty quickly. And, something like that becoming illegal is just ridiculous. So I can, trade that in. If they do the buyback, I have to give that back, chambered in 223. But then I can go to the shop and just go buy a 308. So what dangerous, illegal guns are you taking off the street? I'm trading in a 223 to go get a 308. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got it backwards.
Oh, look, they really do. They've really just – but I think we have, again, as firearms owners, have done a really poor job. And I do go back to our community. There's so much infighting, even with the SSAA. Like, look at the SSAA. You've got the national branch that they're fighting with the Queensland state branch, and they're posting that they're not working together. And it's just so much. It's just like, what is going on? And on that, the SSAA, I had to call up again to talk to them because they seem to make some mistakes. And it's just such a clunky thing. Like I said, can you check how many attendances? Like, no, that's a state thing. Surely, with the amount of money that you guys are raking in, you can invest in a system that doesn't waste my time of having to call different people. You can, mate, like I just sit there and shake my head and go, what's going on? Do they actually care about shooters and hunters, or is it about the bank balance and keeping people in jobs? Because it just... geez, it's frustrating. And you haven't heard a peep out of them. I know they're out there and they're, spruiking crap and, they've got people supporting them. And, there's probably, I dare say there's some sponsorships going on there because you sit there and just go, I don't know if I think if there was a viable option away from SSAA and the ranges that someone else had, that they would die off very, very quickly. And unfortunately, we are sort of stuck with them and there's no other option. And I think they know that. And I think that's how their actions portray that. Because up until this point, what have they really done that we've seen? They've got probably the war chest. If you're ever talking about someone that's got the money to actually do something about this and lobby and things like that, it's probably them. And I've seen a lot of other people doing a lot of other stuff. And it's not coming from them, and then it's then in the blame game. Oh, it's not the national side, it's the state's up to the state, and the state wants to blame the national. It's like, I think you guys are just talking crap, to be honest. But it's, I think we unfortunately, I think, really bad position from those governing bodies, those bodies that have the power, so to say. And then we're so fragmented too that's a major problem too. I think it's just, it's like a perfect storm of, inept things to make our life harder. And I think we're seeing that, unfortunately. I think that's one of the things. But mate, look, it is part of it, and just got to roll with it. And sorry to hear about the Taipan, because I've heard they're a pretty cool bit of gear.
They are.
It was on my list, and now I sort of sit there and go, well, there goes that opportunity. I'm not going to go buy one now. If someone's, got one, I might try and get it to the range or something. But it's sort of like, do I really want to do that too? And go, oh, I love this thing. Oh, like that's just like sort of, dangling a carrot that you'll never be able to get. Like,
that's right.
It just sucks. I think it's one of the things I really feel for the firearms shops at the moment, because they must be hurting. And there's no government packages to help them out. And it's such a shame. And I just hope that they can get through this period and that they'll come out on the other end stronger. And I always encourage people, please go and buy, even if it's ammo, new camo, whatever you can do, just to keep the dollars turning in that shop, to keep it open.
Yeah, that's right.
So, mate, how did you get into hunting? You said you used to hunt during the day, then you've transitioned into the night. How did you come about getting into hunting, wanting to get the family involved and things like that? Has it been something you grew up with?
A couple of guys at work had rifles and whatnot, and I've always liked, when I was a kid, going to those carnivals where you get the little BB and shoot the little duck that goes past and whatnot. And then a couple of guys at work had rifles and guns. Some went hunting, some went target shooting. And I thought, what, I do want to get one. I'm at that age now where I can't have one. I live at home and whatnot. I spoke to the missus about it. She said, absolutely not. You're not having a gun. And, I just sort of planted the seed, kept it talking about it, and then she sort of gave up in the end. And, got my first one. I think it was a Hauer 1500 in a 243. Put all the scope and everything on it. Got the safe and whatnot. Went hunting for the first time. As soon as I went hunting, the missus was hooked. Got my first pig and first fox. As soon as I did that, the missus said, can I get one? So she got her license and, bought her the Taipan. And my son just wants to do whatever I'm doing. If I'm working on my car, he wants to work on the car. If I'm hunting, he wants to go hunting. So on his Christmas list, it wasn't, toys and video games. It was camo gear and trail cams and things like that. So I sort of pushed him into the right direction, I think. So it's more, we're a family unit, and we just go out hunting and enjoy wildlife and, open land and just being out in the bush and whatnot. It's better than being cramped up playing, PS5 or something like that, especially for the kids. And ever since going for the, deer and whatnot, which is the end of last year to this year, harvesting it myself, showing my son how to do it, cut the back straps out and whatnot, to all the way to cooking it, preparing it and whatnot. They learn so much from it. And that's just something that I'll keep forever, and I hope he will pass that on to his children, you know what I mean? It's a good thing to have. I've always liked hunting and gathering and fishing and things like that, so I'm hoping he'll pick that up when he gets older as well.
It's cool from that. Like I grew up in the fishing, spearfishing side of it, and I just don't think, not that my dad wouldn't shoot, but I just don't think he sort of had mates that did it where they all fished and they all spearfished. So that was the thing. And mum, loves fishing, so they had the boats and things like that. So you can only do so many hobbies as well. That becomes really, a tricky one. And I look at it, and my kids are very similar, talking about the same stuff. We've got, I made the mistake, obviously I've got 3 kids, made the mistake, I've got one little bolt action plastic rifle just to teach them how to work it and talk about that. And having one between 3 is very silly. So I know they're at me at the moment because they all want their own. So that'll be the next thing to get them. But every time I go hunting now, it's, can we come? And it's cool to see and hear that, and them wanting to come out and just be involved. Because as I said, they just want to do what you're doing. And I think it's your responsibility as, a parent to guide them into things that are going to be enjoyable, healthy. And I think that's what hunting and gathering, as you said, fishing, all those things, those outdoor pursuits, I think they're very important. And I think we're getting less and less people know how to do those things. And it's going to be one of those really rare skills in the future that I think will be super important. So for them to have that is going to be it's going to be great. If I've got it right and I'm predicting what's going to happen in the future, I think that, as you said, the video games, the lack of ability to just sit patiently and be immersed in nature, and also the health impacts too. Like I think I've talked about it on the podcast. I'm not sure. I talk about it with work a lot, but I think it's Japan. I'm confident it's Japan that they actually diagnose. So their GPs actually diagnose what they call tree bathing, which is just getting out in the bush and spending time in the bush because of the benefits that it has for your health. And I sort of think about that and go, it is such, when you go to the bush, your worries just seem to melt away. You're just immersed in the moment. And then I reflect on, you look at mental health statistics these days, and especially amongst young people, and what are they doing? They're eating just crap food, and they're just locked up in, whether it be in a box for at school, at home. And I think there's just that flow-on effect. I think they're all intertwined somehow. Whereas if you've got the ability, like my kids are always on me, like even tonight before we jumped on here, they're asking me, can we go in the caravan? Can we go in the caravan? They just want to go away. They just have such a great time. Yeah. Which is what I want the experiences for. You sit there and go, I think they've done studies and they talk about children over 5, the most important things that they'll remember. It's not the toys, it's not the TV, it's the memories from those trips and going out. And unfortunately, I think a lot of young people don't get that anymore. And whether it be a lack of skill set, a lack of finances, the country's in the worst state from disposable income I think we've ever been, well, for a long time anyway. Yeah. So you then have all these people that are restricted in being able to do things. And I think that really does hurt kids growing up. And unfortunately, I'd love it if we could just fix the whole problem for every child, but we can't. That's not real. But we can look after our own and teach them, guide them, and show them. And I think that's really important to pass those things on. And hopefully my kids will love it. I'm pretty confident they will, just from what they already talk about. So, and it sounds like you're the same.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, they love getting out there and whatnot. My daughter's just, I think she's starting to push me to sort of get out there. And, my young bloke's got a Nerf gun collection because that's the only things he can have, just to be like me, It's pretty good like that, so...
I think it's, you rub off on your kids and you can either teach them good, healthy habits. And I see it with even just going to work out in the gym. Like, got a gym in the garage. So just going up there, the kids know and watch and then try and imitate. And that's all really good stuff, because the better habits they are earlier, hopefully they carry throughout their life. And then that means that they're going to be healthier, live longer, hopefully. And it's just a flow-on effect. So I think that's, super important. So, mate, what do you like chasing? Because you sort of touched on it before. You shot your first fox and pig, and now you're sort of moving over into the deer. Is there sort of favourites that you like?
Favourites probably pigs, only because I know they can do a lot of damage, especially to farmland and whatnot. Where I hunt, the pigs aren't big, like a lot of areas where they can just munch on grain and loosen whatever they munch on, you know what I mean? They're sort of just scavengers down there. So, like, the biggest one I probably got was probably the 80, 90 kilo mark, which is fairly decent, but, I've seen them go way over 100. The deer, I don't mind, because obviously you can harvest the meat and things like that. Foxes, they do a lot of damage to the environment, and the lizards, birds. I seen one running around when I was down the farm last with a cockatoo in its mouth. Do you know what I mean? It's taken our native wildlife. So if I do get a chance, usually I hunt during the night. If I don't find a deer or pigs, and I do come across a fox on the way out, I will go for it. Just for the native wildlife, mate. You know what I mean? They do a lot of damage as well. You don't see it, but they do. So
I think it's another hunter's conundrum is that you sort of go out, and I think we all, whether it be a fox or a cat, that you know the damage that they can do, that you do want to pop them. But if you're there chasing deer, you don't want to spook deer because you know. So it's this tricky balancing act of trying to get them at the right time or what you're there for. It's a hard one because I got presented with that the other thing. My mate Dan went and was chasing a buck, and he'd missed, and they'd sort of spooked, and then there was this fox walking, sort of trotting along the paddock, and I was like, nah, I'm going for that, and end up shooting a buck because it was we sort of he popped out, but I was sort of moving in to try and get the fox. That was the priority because we were like, well, we scared the deer because he had a shot, and now it's game on for the fox till things settle down again, and it just sort of worked out that being the rut, those bucks do some crazy things. So that was I don't think that would have happened normally, but it's a tricky one for some people to understand. Is that I get people go out and go, I see a fox, shoot it, dog, wild dog, whatever. I'll get it for the farmer, and if that's the deal with the landowner, mate, you got to stick by it, 100%.
Yeah.
But if you're there and it's sort of like, oh man, I'm here for deer. If I shoot, I could spook out the whole area, not see anything for that one fox that we might catch later. Yeah, it's a real tricky one. I haven't been presented with too much of that in my experience. So hopefully one day, and that will be a lucky sort of bad spot to be in, I suppose.
Yeah. What I usually do if I am going for pigs or whatnot, I usually take the pigs, leave them where they lay until the end of the night, because usually a fox might come past and be a little bit interested in it, you know what I mean? Because it can obviously smell the blood and whatnot. And if they are there around it, take them too. So it's almost like baiting them, really.
Yeah.
So I've done it a couple of times.
Yeah, well, it's not a bad idea because, if you can attract them into what you've already shot, that's sort of a double whammy, isn't it? Like you're getting one off the other. How good. I'm sure the farmer will be super happy about that too. So it makes sense. But when you hunt of a night, you said you run the carbon bipod or tripod, I think it was.
Tripod, yeah.
Yeah, just set up and wait. Do you have a monocular or you're scanning off the rifle scope and onto the iPad?
Yeah, just scanning off the rifle at the moment until I do get enough money to buy another thermal.
Yeah.
Because they are so expensive.
Yeah.
But, it depends on the wind as well. You know what I mean? If the wind's, heading west, I sort of hunt one side of the land. If the wind's heading east, hunt the opposite. So it depends on the wind a lot as well.
I find when you're doing thermal, you just get that little bit extra time that if you spot something, you can get it that tad bit closer, that they don't spook straight away, that you've just got – I wouldn't say it's super different to hunting because you still got to play the wind, you've still got to do that. But I find that you can make a little bit more noise than normally you could, or there's just those little, maybe 10% sort of give that you normally wouldn't get given, I suppose.
Yeah.
It is good fun though. With all the tech and everything with it, it's so much fun. And even I know when I get out, every time I get to use the thermal monocular, just being able to see things when it's completely dark and go, oh, that's that. And the tech now, being able to identify at such a good distance too, that's so cool. Like I think where it does get considered, I've spoken to people who do a lot more thermal work than me, is that even them, they said the eyes can get tricked by what they're looking at. And he said that is where we go back to that sort of poaching, that, sort of uncomfortable feeling that if someone is out there with the thermal, that you really want to make sure that they're getting it right, and even yourself, that you make sure you're getting it right. And I mean, look, 90% of the time, open field, you're going to get it right. It's more the ones that are behind a tree or in a bush and they're just seeing outlines and they can't really make it out and it looks like something because something might be covered. Or it's an interesting concept. I know there was a lot of people against the thermals being used when they opened them up into public lands. I think that was there was outcries about it for that reason, and also the fair chase sort of thing too. I see all sides. I think there's always points from one side that you can sort of relate to and understand and go, yeah, I see that. And, I'd give it a bit of credit as well. So it's just it's sort of that tricky one, especially when talking about the thermals and using them on public land and during the day, is I get that people go fair chase goes out the window a little bit. I don't think it goes out heaps. I think again, thermals only work up to a certain amount of time. As soon as it starts to heat up, they disappear pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The other thing is we are under the pump with ferals. Whether you like it or not, deer are everywhere and so are pigs. And there is more and more mounting pressure from all different sort of avenues that we need to be getting on top of them a lot more.
Yeah, that's right, 100%. It's a lot of people are saying, you got an unfair advantage and you can see a lot more through thermal. At the end of the day, we're chasing the same goal. Is to get these numbers down. Whether you're using a normal scope or a thermal, you want to get as many pigs as you can. You want to get as many deer as you can. Help these farmers out, because I personally think that this year is going to be a dry one for these farmers, and the pigs are getting into troughs and whatnot. Let's just all work together and take them out. It doesn't matter what you have, whether it's thermal, glass scope, and just help them out a bit.
Do you think it's one thing I've sort of been toying with the idea, and one of the reasons I got thermal was to try and help me get private access, because I felt that if I had thermal, especially when they weren't as, I guess, readily available. Now everyone's probably got one because the pricing has obviously come right down. I thought that was a good way as something to differentiate me from all the other hunters that try and get onto blocks. And do you think it's people that are sort of against that for that reason? Is it's just you can do probably a bit, you can get more numbers with the thermal than you probably can during the day. And if you're doing that for the farmer, why is he going to want someone on there doing just day hunting or fair chase hunting or whatever you want to call it? Because that's not in their best interest, because they want the numbers off for their stock, their feed, everything that goes along with it. So is that where the animosity is coming from? Like you've got to be realistic. We can't just say, we're not going to shoot deer. And I get people out there will get upset because we use the word feral and not game and all that. And it doesn't really matter what you call them. The numbers are big. And if we don't do a better job of trying to keep them in a manageable state, then I feel that we're going to be facing down the barrel of worse sort of issues such as poison and widespread poison to take out deer or pigs more than, what they sort of get into now. I feel that you're right. I think we need to go, hey, let's just band together, do the job for the farmer. But then it's such a tricky one too, because there's so many people that want access. And if you get access that's really good so that you can sort of try and, whether you're working on herd management or something like that, you don't want someone else coming in and destroying whatever you've put in. It's such a fine line between making everybody happy and no one happy, I suppose. It's one of those things that makes me question a lot of these things I've never had to sort of be concerned with or have issues with because, again, with the private access. But I know people that have a lot of access and that is something that's constantly on their mind of making sure that they keep the property owners happy so no one else gets on, because they want to keep the herd to sort of, genetic strong for the stags or the bucks, also keep the numbers down so it's a decent population, also not do too much so they push them off the property. Also, there's so many elements to it which make it really tricky. It's such a fine line between how you manage all of those things. But I think that is unfortunately one of the things I think that divides hunters the most, is because there are so many different ways to do it and so many different options and so many different objectives and outcomes. And that is the reason why I feel that we struggle to band together and unite. Whereas you look at sort of other sort of things where you've got a lot less, if you look at, even if you look at fishing, they're probably similar to us, but nowhere near the vast extent. If you, fish with lures, if you use plastics, bait, flies, whatever it might be, you might sort of have your little section, but I still feel it's not as bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think, hunting at night, especially with thermal, the farmer's going to obviously choose that over day hunting because he might be out in a tractor, on a ATV, on a horse, whatever he does. He's not going to want some bloke running around with a rifle in his hand, you know what I mean? Like, there's more potential for maybe a stray bullet or something to even hit him. You know what I mean? He'd rather be in bed while you take care of business during the night. While you're in bed during the day, he's looking after, the farm during the day. So that's probably another advantage of it too. So that's one of the reasons I bought one, just so I can get that night access. And like I said before, it's a whole different kettle of fish once you go night. The technology in it, the just the picture quality, you can see it clear as day. Like, you could go out there, you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face. You look through the scope, you see, there's a wombat down there, there's 5 pigs over there, there's 20 kangaroos all huddled up there. It's almost like a day image just through that thermal. So
it's exciting to see where the tech goes, and it's one I've been looking at, like the clip-on thermals for your scope, because I do like the idea. It's one of the downsides of the Alpex is trying to on and off rifles. I was trying to get quick release ones. It's sort of, I think I got the bit of a bum steer from Scoped Out that sent me ones that I didn't really want. Told me they couldn't get them, but they do exist, which is a different topic. But I think when you look at the whole sort of setup and how good everything is getting, I think, and affordable. Like, there's always new products coming into the market space. I'm just hoping that we will continue to just keep growing, and I'm hoping that more and more property owners let people on, and we can do a great job at reducing numbers for the farmers and start to build that sort of connection, because I think that one is probably, for me, lacking. I think I talked about it with Rob, the venison diplomat, that he was mentioning that when you do your wit test, there's a list of properties that want hunters coming in to remove ducks. And it's such a shame that we don't have something similar to a decent scale. And let's not talk about SSAA Farmer Assist, which is, pathetic.
Yeah.
That's on a grand scale where we get people more access and we get people access. So maybe something like that, then we stop that could, coming back to where we started, that might stop the poaching. And it might, if people have got consistent access where they can build that, they can have opportunities to get it, because it is frustrating. I'll put my hand up. I've been, trying for maybe 8 years to get private access. And just, I don't want to know how much I've spent on letters and pamphlets and mailing things and petrol and accommodation, and it's equated to bugger all, and I sit there and reflect on it and go, I don't know where to turn to. And then I see mates that have, one of my mates, he's got, most of the South Coast locked up, and I just sort of sit there and go, lucky him. But for everyone else, that sort of sucks. And for someone like me that's been just trying, like, thank God we got state forest, because, if it wasn't for that, or it wasn't for a mate taking me out, Jesus Christ, I don't know what I'd hate to be in Queensland. We were talking about this the other day. If I was lived in Queensland, I don't think I'd hunt, because I just, obviously I'm not good at getting access. That's clear. But then that becomes so much more if you're in somewhere where there's not even a state forest in your state that you can hunt. There's no public land. Like, oh man, I feel for them up there, because I just go, wow, what would someone like me do in that position? I don't know how you'd stay in hunting, like, especially when you've got options like, just go into fishing. Fishing is so much easier. Go to a lake, go to a beach. Like, you can fish pretty much anywhere, obviously not marine parks and things like that, but it's just way more accessible. And I sort of think that's one of our big hurdles as well. And I think that's probably also the hurdle of the poaching. But in saying that, you talk about there's still people that poach, whether it be abalone or lobsters or things like that too. That still occurs. And you've got so much access when it comes to fishing. So maybe it's just sometimes people just, they're going to do the wrong thing, and that's not something that you're ever going to be able to change.
Well, they should have an app or a website or something. Like you've got inland hunting properties or something where you pay for that thing. They should have something similar, but for the farmers. And you have got to, maybe put a photo of yourself, your years' experience of hunting and whatnot, and almost like a resume. And then the farmer will pick who they want to interview to let onto their property. Do you know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's one in the works. And I hope it is successful. The offset to that is something interesting you just said there was, you get a resume. But there's a perfect example, right? Are you then just going to be rewarding the people that have got the experience and access? Because I don't, right? So imagine that. You got onto the thing and you got, okay, my mate has, 50 properties that he hunts on. He's got 50 references. He works in a firearms shop, been doing it for 15 years, 20 years, whatever it might be. Yeah. Here's me. I don't have access. I've been hunting for 6 to 8 years. Would that actually then make it the opposite, where the divide starts to get bigger and we start to sound like the UK, where the rich get to hunt and the poor people can't get the leases and they don't get the opportunity? Yeah, it's an interesting one. I do hope something comes out and it's a step in the right direction for getting more and more people. And there'll be a lot of people there saying, stop complaining because you've got public land. And I get that too. There's pros and cons to public land too. There's so many things. As you said, you're not shooting with the thermal. There's that side of it too, of a night. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I love always hearing different people's opinions and trying to see it from different viewpoints. And I don't think we'll ever be able to get to some of these with, foolproof solutions, because someone's passion is going to have them clearly on one side or the other. And I get that too. Like if you're someone that is fully invested in trophy hunting and passionate about it, and old mate gets access with the thermal and knocks the biggest stag on the block that you've spent years chasing, you'd be devastated. Like I get that side too, right? Like I completely see both sides of it, and people that have access that don't want anyone else on because, they've worked hard to get it, to keep it, it's a tricky one. I don't know. It's one that I don't know if I always like to have these little thought experiments where if you had a magic wand, what could you change or fix to, resolve all this? And I'm still trying to work out one that fixes everything for everyone. And it's so intricate that I don't think we'll ever even get close to doing that. You're always going to be, annoying someone, and they're going to be right against it. And I think that's just, it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. It sucks sometimes, but I got the best of both worlds. I made sure that with my hobby being involved in firearms and whatnot, I could have the opportunity to go hunt, or I reload my own ammunition. So that gives me something to do. I don't mind going to the range every now and again. There's one down at Hilltop down here I think it runs out to 500 meters. So there's always something to do with a rifle. Do you know what I mean? So if that property does get cut off for me, I've got other sort of hobbies that do involve the rifle on hand as well. So you go to the range, and you see a lot of the old timers there. With they've even got the chronographs. I'm watching them, and they're just putting round after round after round, and they'll sit there all day. And you get talking to them, and those guys have got a lot of experience with ammunition, firearms. They'll have everything from a 22 up to a 338 or a 308 or whatever. And just chatting with them, you learn a lot. So that'll broaden your intelligence with with this hobby as well.
I completely agree. I've met some really just unbelievably knowledgeable people at the range, just that sending them down and reloading, and that fascinates me too. It's I get where you're coming from, that there's multiple aspects within hunting that can sort of fill your fix. And hey, that's why the podcast started. I did this because I had young twins, and I had 3 kids under 2 years of age, and went, mate, there's no chance I'm getting hunting, especially when I usually go about 4 or 5 hours away. But that's why I did this, because whilst I'm not pulling the trigger out in the field, it's something that's tying me to it, and I'm still interested, and it's still making me think about the next trip and the like. So completely agree with you what you're saying there in that respect as well. And I guess that's the beauty about it. Like it means so many different things for different people. And I think that's one of the best parts about it. And one of the reasons I really like it, it brought everything together for me: the camping, the hiking, the whole being outdoors, food, the whole thing. So I love it for that. But I also love the fact that I believe, and I'm pretty confident, that doesn't matter what age I am, I should be able to do it in some capacity. Yes, I might not be able to climb up the biggest mountains, or maybe I will, but it will take me 6 times as long. But who cares? If I'm able to do it, that was a big transition for me from playing sports competitively to then going, I'm not going to be able to do this forever. And, like that sucks, because I was so invested in my sports. And, that side of it, it was sort of like a feeling of loss, of like, that's a big chunk. What's the next passion? What am I really going to throw myself into? And I'm a bit of a, once I step into the water, I'm just jumping, go all in, or don't do it. And that's where it sort of came and went, this is one I've always sort of dabbled and been in there, but now I've got sort of the time and to really hone the skills and focus. And I'm not going to have to go through that transition again of going, I'm just getting too old to play this or that or whatnot. And then it's still got the elements of fitness, like climbing up the mountains. Every time I climb up mountains, I always say to myself, train. This year I didn't train because obviously there was a lot going on with my wife and whatnot. But this is the first year. Usually I train pretty well coming into the rut or the raw. And then I didn't this year, but it was quite interesting because I didn't feel that I was like as bad as I was the year before when I trained, like climbing up some of the mountains. So maybe I just picked smaller mountains. I don't know. But it was a very interesting dynamic because I was like, what the? I thought I was going to be way worse than I was, and it wasn't. And I was like, I don't know what's happened. But that's just the enticing too, getting up and training and going, hey, this is preparing for this. And I think that's that driver and that goal. And I think anything like that, that's especially from a health perspective, that's a win.
Yeah.
I never want to be the person that's sort of 70, 80 years of age and just sitting at home on the bloody iPad. That just does not appeal to me at all. And I think it's just a waste of life. So, mate, did you get out for the rut?
I got out right at the start. It was right at the start, actually. I did get a buck there, not crazy big, but he was good enough. And, I was just happy to take some meat off him and feed the family. So that's the only reason I sort of went out. I wasn't chasing anything big, or I didn't have access the whole time because the landowner that I usually go to, he usually stays down there for the winter time, and when it starts to get cooler, and we usually go down when it's warm and whatnot. So, just found one fellow. He was by himself. He wasn't around anything, and it was all on thermal. Put a shot into him. He didn't go down. I'm like, oh shit! Is the gun out or something? Then put another shot on into him, and he sort of stumbled, hit the fence, and then just dropped. So I had a look. But both of them were in the side. I think it was just more in shock.
Yeah, right. So, okay. What did he shoot? What round? 308 was it? You were saying before?
308, yeah. 308 Norma round. I think it was 145 grain.
Which is more than sufficient for fallow.
More than enough, yeah.
Yeah.
So
they are funny animals. They they can be tough. I was chatting to someone the other day, and he was talking about, actually, I'll let him tell the story, but man, when you hear it and what this thing has survived with, you'll sit there and just go, holy crap. They are tough animals. And that would just, oh man, like, yeah, you wonder sometimes, like, just getting bashed up and you see the scars and some of the, even on socials, when you see someone, a head locked up together, he's walking around with a head that's been ripped off, and it's like, man,
pretty
that's, it's, you got to have respect for him. That's for sure. So pretty cool at the end of the day, but. All right, mate. Well, it's been good to have you on the podcast. Appreciate you coming on, and looking forward to, hopefully seeing what you do in the future and getting some more animals on the deck with the thermal. It's always great footage. That's the best thing about thermal, I think, is the pictures and the recordings as well.
Yeah.
They are so cool. So, but mate, yes, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matty.
All right, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt. Thanks for tuning in, and can't wait to catch you next time. But in the meantime, if you want more, you can find it at linktr.ee/Australian Hunting and Beyond. That will give you our YouTube, Instagram, X, Facebook, you name it. We'll catch you next time.